The breaking point. Ambassador Elena Reyes stared out the viewport of Assembly Station Zeta, watching distant stars shimmer against the void. Behind her, the murmur of alien languages filled the grand chamber as representatives from 17 galactic civilizations discussed the human problem, as if she weren't present. 6 months of negotiations had led to this moment, a final ultimatum delivered with diplomatic smiles and patronizing tones. Ambassador Reyes, came the melodic voice of High Arbiter Thaxu, the mantis-like Vex Theory, who chaired the Galactic Assembly. We have deliberated and reached consensus. The Terran colonies in the Arcturus sector must be placed under Assembly stewardship within the standard quarter cycle. This is our final position. Elena turned slowly, her dark eyes revealing nothing of the cold anger beneath. Her team of 5 human diplomats remained expressionless, a skill they had perfected through countless sessions of being talked down to by species who had traversed the stars, while humans were still discovering electricity. High Arbiter, Elena replied, her voice steady. For the record, Earth's position remains unchanged. The Arcturus colonies represent lawfully established human settlements. The 30,000 colonists there are Earth citizens living on worlds we terraformed over 3 decades. We cannot and will not surrender sovereign territory. Gruvlik, the Taurian representative, snorted through his bovine nostrils. Sovereign, your species barely controls 8 star systems. The Assembly oversees 3,000. The Arcturus sector was marked for development by senior races millennia before your kind achieved spaceflight. Yet you never developed it, Elena countered. Not until humans proved it could be done. Now that we've made those worlds habitable, suddenly the Assembly is interested. The humans' primitive terraforming has damaged delicate quantum resonance fields, interjected Silpatra of the Myraxian Dominion, her translucent tentacles rippling with simulated outrage. Fields that hold significant cultural importance to elder races. Elena fought to keep her expression neutral. The quantum resonance claim had only emerged after humans had discovered rare element deposits on the 3rd planet of the Arcturus system. Before that, the Assembly had shown zero interest in the desolate worlds humanity had laboriously transformed. She glanced down at her compad as it vibrated silently. A message from Earth Central Command. Authorization granted. Proceed with PR to Sigodo Exodius. I see further discussion is pointless, Elena said, closing her diplomatic portfolio with deliberate care. The United Earth Confederation hereby withdraws from these negotiations and formally suspends its observer status with the Galactic Assembly, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some registered shock, others smug satisfaction. Ambassador Lethnar of the Dravity Federation, one of the few Assembly members who had treated humans with respect, extended a feathered limb in a gesture of conciliation. Ambassador Reyes, surely there is room for compromise. This abrupt departure serves no one's interests. Perhaps after a cooling period, the humans will reconsider their position, suggested Thaxu, mandibles clicking with barely concealed disdain. Your species does tend toward emotional decisions. Elena stood, prompting her team to rise as well. The human delegation will depart Assembly Station within 6 standard hours. Any future communications can be directed through established diplomatic channels. As they filed out of the chamber, Elena could already hear discussions about how to divide the Arcturus colonies among Assembly powers. The Taurians and Myraxians were particularly vocal, already calculating how quickly they could move in once humans retreated. Commander Sato met them at the docking bay, his Earth fleet uniform immaculate, dark eyes alert beneath close-cropped gray hair. All preparations complete, Ambassador. Yes, they're exactly as arrogant as we anticipated, Elena replied quietly. The moment we're clear of Assembly space, initiate secure protocol. 2 hours later, the human diplomatic vessel Concordia detached from Assembly Station Zeta. On the bridge, Elena watched the massive ring-shaped station diminish on the view screen. Incoming communication from the Myraxian flagship, reported Communications Officer Rivera. They're offering to escort us to the nearest jump point. Decline politely, ordered Commander Sato, and activate screening field once we're beyond their security perimeter. As they cleared the assembly jurisdiction zone, Sato turned to Elena. Phase 1 complete. Now we see if they take the bait. Elena nodded grimly. The President's address is scheduled for broadcast once we're back in Earth space. How long until we clear assembly territory? 16 hours on standard routes, Sato replied. 9 if we push the engines and take the direct path through the Carina Nebula. Take the direct path. I want to be home when it begins. The Concordia jumped to FTL, its advanced engines leaving only a brief ripple in the fabric of space. Behind them, the assembly representatives congratulated themselves on a diplomatic victory. Humans are predictable, High Arbiter Thaxu said to his inner circle. They make bold statements, then retreat when faced with unity among the elder races. Their colonies will be easy to repurpose once we begin the reclamation project. None of them noticed the tiny probe the human ship had left behind, quietly recording every word. In the Strategic Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, General Maya Okafor moved between holographic displays, reviewing readiness reports from across human space. On the main screen, a map showed Earth's modest stellar territory, 8 fully developed systems glowing blue against the black void. Status report, she demanded. Colonel Devi Sharma stood at attention. All defensive networks are in position, General. Production facilities in the asteroid belts show normal activity on external scans, but internally they're operating at 214% capacity. Stealth platforms are deployed and cloaked at all designated coordinates. General Okafor allowed herself a tight smile. For 7 years, humanity had presented itself as transparent and cooperative to the Galactic Assembly, all while preparing for the inevitable day when talking would no longer suffice. In her office above the command center, President Camila Ortega reviewed the latest intelligence assessments. Her door opened, and her chief of staff entered. The Concordia has returned to Earth space, Madam President. Ambassador Reyes requests immediate debriefing. Ortega nodded. Send her in. Elena looked weary but resolute when she entered. Madam President, events progressed exactly as intelligence predicted. The Assembly, particularly the Taurians and Myraxians, believe we've backed down out of weakness. Then we proceed with Operation Umbra, Ortega said, keying a secure command into her terminal. General Okafor, you have authorization to implement Phase 2. Throughout human space, transformations began. In orbital docks around Earth and its colonies, vessels classified as cargo and research ships revealed their true nature as weapons systems came online. Crews who had trained for years in secret took their stations. On Arcturus II, Director Kai Chen walked through the underground complex that, to anyone scanning from space, appeared to be a standard mining operation. In reality, it housed one of humanity's most advanced defense systems. Anything on the long-range sensors? He asked the monitoring team. Nothing yet, replied Lieutenant Santos, but we're detecting increased communication traffic between assembly vessels. Something's heading our way. Chen nodded. Just as Dr. Nakamura predicted. They'll come to Arcturus first to secure the element deposits. Dr. Yuki Nakamura waited in the control room, running final diagnostics on her phase shift defense system, technology she had spent the last decade perfecting. The sensor array is calibrated, she reported. When they arrive, they won't detect our capabilities until it's far too late. Meanwhile, on Assembly Station Zeta, most species celebrated what they perceived as human capitulation. Only the Dravidi seemed concerned. Ambassador Lethnar studied records of human history, troubled by what he was seeing. They're making a critical mistake, he told his aide. Humans don't retreat because they're weak. They retreat to regroup and fortify. The Taurians and Myraxians don't share your concern, his aide noted. They're already dispatching ships to the Arcturus sector. Lethnar's feathers rippled with agitation. Then they will learn a painful lesson. In a private meeting room, Torian and Myraxian leaders finalized their plans. "We will send a diplomatic mission to their primary colony on Arcturus II," announced Grovlik, accompanied by sufficient warships to make our position clear. Zilpatra's tentacles shimmered with anticipation. Once they surrender Arcturus, their other colonial holdings will quickly follow. Their resources will greatly benefit the Dominion. Neither noticed the microscopic recording device embedded in the ceiling fixture, or that their entire conversation was being transmitted back to Earth via quantum entanglement, a technology the Assembly believed humans had not yet mastered. In the strategic command bunker, President Ortega watched the recording with General Okafor and Ambassador Reyes. "How predictable," Elena said. "They're following our projected scenario almost exactly." "How soon will they reach Arcturus?" "Less than 4 days," Okafor replied. "Director Chen and Dr. Nakamura are prepared." Ortega studied the holographic map showing human territory. "Let's hope this works. We don't want extended conflict, just enough to demonstrate that they've severely misjudged us." "It will work," Elena said confidently. "The Assembly thinks they know humans from our public face. They have absolutely no idea what we're capable of when cornered." Across human space, all regular communications went silent. To outside observers, it appeared that humanity was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable. The truth was far different. They weren't waiting. They were getting ready. The demonstration. The Myraxian flagship Celestial Dominance led a fleet of 11 warships toward Arcturus II. From the command sphere, Supreme Commander Silvora watched the blue-green world grow larger on the dimensional display. Her translucent tentacles pulsed with anticipation as she contemplated how quickly her reputation would rise once she secured this resource-rich planet for the Dominion. "Scan the human settlement," she ordered. The sensor operator manipulated crystalline controls with practiced precision. "I detect minimal defenses, Commander. Their shield system is rudimentary at best. No weapons platforms visible. Approximately 283 life signs in the main colony. Another 52 scattered at mining outposts." Zilvora's upper body rippled, the equivalent of satisfied laughter among her kind. As expected, the humans speak boldly of sovereignty, but they lack the capacity to defend their claims. "Commander," the communications specialist interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface." "Display it." The holographic projection shimmered into focus, revealing a human male with East Asian features and calm, steady eyes. "Myraxian vessels, this is Director Kai Chen of Arcturus Research Station. You have entered restricted human space without prior authorization. Please state your purpose." Zilvora rose to her full height, tentacles extended in a posture meant to intimidate. "I am Supreme Commander Zilvora of the Galactic Assembly. We come on a diplomatic mission to discuss the future administration of this colony." Chen's expression remained neutral. "I see. And does the Assembly typically send 11 warships on diplomatic missions?" "The Assembly believes a demonstration of resolve will help humans accept the inevitable transition," Silvora replied. "Your species has withdrawn from negotiations. Now you must accept Assembly stewardship." "I understand," Chen said. "Please maintain your current position while I consult with Earth Command." The transmission ended. Zilvora turned to her second-in-command. "Prepare landing parties. We will secure the main settlement within 2 hours if they don't formally surrender." Deep beneath the colony's surface, Chen turned to Dr. Nakamura in the control center. "They took the bait. Exactly as predicted." Nakamura nodded and initiated a sequence on her interface panel. "Phase shift network activating now." In orbit around Arcturus II, 76 small satellites that had been completely invisible to Myraxian sensors suddenly shifted partially into normal space. They remained visually imperceptible, but their weapon systems began powering up, targeting systems locking onto the Assembly fleet. On the Celestial Dominance, alarms suddenly blared. "Commander," the sensor operator called out, tentacles writhing in distress. energy signatures appearing throughout the orbital plane. They weren't there before. Impossible. Silvora snapped. Check your equipment. The readings are accurate, the officer insisted. Human vessels and weapons platforms, dozens of them. They were somehow phase-shifted out of standard spacetime. Silvora's skin darkened with anger. Open a channel to the surface immediately. Director Chen appeared on screen again, still looking composed. Yes, Commander. What deception is this? Silvora demanded. You have concealed military assets. Not concealed, Chen corrected mildly. Simply utilizing Dr. Nakamura's phase shift technology. The Assembly never inquired if we possessed such capabilities, so we never volunteered the information. As if on cue, 5 human warships materialized directly in front of the Myraxian fleet, followed by 7 more on their flank. Within moments, the Assembly forces found themselves completely surrounded by vessels that seemed to materialize from nowhere. This is illegal. Silvora hissed. The Assembly prohibits phase shift technology for military applications. We never ratified that protocol, Chen pointed out. As you and your colleagues have repeatedly emphasized, we are merely observers to the Assembly, not full members bound by its regulations. From her control station, Dr. Nakamura activated the final sequence. The human ships and platforms locked weapons on the Myraxian vessels, targeting systems highlighting engines, weapons arrays, and life support nodes. You have 2 options, Chen stated calmly. Withdraw immediately from human space, or we will demonstrate precisely why humanity has thrived despite controlling only 8 star systems. Silvora's second-in-command leaned close. Commander, they have targeting locks on our critical systems. These aren't warning postures. They intend to cripple or destroy us if we resist. For the first time, uncertainty crept into Silvora's mind. This was not the behavior of a species retreating from intimidation. Your decision, Commander, Chen prompted. Silvora's pride warred with her survival instinct. Finally, survival won. We will withdraw. But the Assembly will not forget this provocation. We're counting on it, Chen replied. Safe journey back to Assembly space. As the Myraxian ships turned and fled from Arcturus, Chen and Nakamura watched from the command center. Phase 2 complete, Nakamura said with quiet satisfaction. Chen nodded. And right on schedule. 3 days later, an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly convened on Station Zeta. The chamber buzzed with agitated conversations as representatives from all 17 civilizations tried to make sense of the reports from the Arcturus sector. High Arbiter Thaxu called for order, mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among the Vexthuri. Supreme Commander Silvora, present your account of the Arcturus incident. The Myraxian commander recounted her fleet's encounter with previously undetected human defenses, emphasizing the illegal use of phase shift technology. As she spoke, the Assembly representatives grew increasingly disturbed. This changes everything, muttered Grovlik of the Taurians. If humans can phase shift entire battle groups, the humans have clearly been deceiving us about their technological capabilities. Thaxu declared once Silvora concluded her report. We must consider a unified response to this threat. Ambassador Lethnar of the Dravidi Federation rose, feathers rippling in the formal pattern indicating a point of order. With respect, High Arbiter, perhaps we should first verify whether this represents a threat at all. No Myraxian vessels were fired upon. No ultimatums were issued beyond demands to respect territorial boundaries that we ourselves would enforce if the situation were reversed. The humans concealed military technology. Silvora protested. Did you directly ask about their defensive capabilities? Lethnar inquired mildly. Before Silvora could respond, the chamber's main display activated without authorization. The serene face of Ambassador Elena Reyes appeared, causing immediate uproar. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Assembly, she began once the noise subsided. I apologize for this unorthodox communication method, but given recent events, I felt direct dialogue was necessary. "How are you accessing our secure channels?" demanded Thaxu. "The same way we've been monitoring your private deliberations regarding the human problem for the past 3 years," Alina replied calmly. "Technology you believe beyond our capabilities." Stunned silence fell across the chamber. "Let me be clear," Alina continued. "The United Earth Confederation has no expansionist ambitions. We seek only to protect what is rightfully ours. The demonstration at Arcturus was precisely that. A demonstration, not an escalation. You threaten the Assembly with military action," Grevlik challenged. "No, we simply corrected a dangerous misperception. Your assessment of human capabilities was flawed, leading to diplomatic calculations that could have resulted in unnecessary conflict." Alina's expression softened slightly. "We prefer cooperation to confrontation. Earth is prepared to resume diplomatic relations with the Assembly under new terms that recognize our sovereignty and territorial integrity." "And if we refuse?" asked Thaxu. "Then we will remain isolated, developing our phase shift technology and other innovations you believe beyond us. But I suspect your scientific communities will strongly advise against that option once they review the sensor data from Arcturus. With perfect timing, technical specifications for human phase shift technology appeared on every representative's personal display. Enough information to prove its existence without revealing how to replicate it. Earth awaits your response," Alina said, and the transmission ended. The Assembly erupted into chaos. Amid the confusion, Ambassador Lethnar approached Thaxu privately. "High Arbiter, I've studied human history extensively. Their species thrives when challenged. They advance most rapidly when threatened. Do we truly wish to isolate a civilization that can shift entire fleets between dimensional planes?" Thaxu's compound eyes fixed on the Dravidi. "What do you suggest?" "Compromise. Respect their existing territories. Offer genuine partnership rather than patronizing oversight. They clearly have much to teach us." 1 week later, Alina Reyes once again stood before the Galactic Assembly, this time at the invitation of High Arbiter Thaxu himself. The chamber felt different. The dismissive attitudes replaced by cautious respect. "The Assembly has reviewed the events at Arcturus and reconsidered its position," Thaxu announced. "We propose a new framework for human participation in galactic affairs, recognizing the sovereignty of all 8 human systems, including the Arcturus colonies. Furthermore," he continued, mandibles clicking in the Vextheri equivalent of clearing one's throat, "we invite the United Earth Confederation to join the Assembly as a full member rather than an observer, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." Alina maintained her diplomatic composure, though inwardly she felt a surge of satisfaction. "Earth appreciates this gesture of respect, High Arbiter. We accept your invitation and look forward to a more equitable relationship." Later, as she prepared to return to Earth, Ambassador Lethnar approached her in the diplomatic lounge. "A most effective demonstration, Ambassador Reyes," the Dravidi said, feathered limbs arranged in a pattern of admiration. "Though I wonder, was it truly necessary to go to such lengths?" Alina smiled slightly. History suggested it was. Humanity has learned that respected boundaries make for better neighbors than unchallenged encroachment. And the phase shift technology, is it truly as advanced as the Myraxian sensors indicated? "That information remains classified," Alina replied. "But I would encourage the Assembly to operate under the assumption that what was demonstrated at Arcturus represents only a fraction of humanity's capabilities." As her ship departed Station Zeta, Alina gazed out at the stars. Humanity had secured its place in the galaxy not through conquest or submission, but by demanding respect and having the means to ensure it was given. The gamble had paid off. Now the real work of building lasting peace could begin.